It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. These past years, I've truly learned that I don't need the newest things all the time, mostly because I can't afford it. It's so tempting to buy something new and think that it'll make everything better, easier, and faster. But say it's 2022 and the iPhone 12 just came out. It was one of the best smartphone cameras and people made incredible videos and photos just using that. And that hasn't really changed, and while new is often better, it's not always necessary. This video, by the way, was shot just in the iPhone 12, by the way, just for reference. It's the end of 2023, and as we're approaching 2024, I have finally upgraded my iPhone. I've gone from an iPhone 13 mini to an iPhone 12. And then you might be thinking, wait, did you say you went from a 13 mini to a 12? Yeah, that's right. I've upgraded, going backwards. Here's why. About 2.5 months after I bought the 13 mini, I had a scooter crash in Bali, and while nothing that bad happened, luckily, my iPhone camera unfortunately did not survive. The main camera, the glass broke. It would cost a new phone more or less to repair it, and I didn't have the funds to do it. So I've been living with a phone that could not shoot with the main camera properly. I have been able to kind of shoot with the wide angle camera, but not really. And while I'm using my camera for all my video, and I'll probably go about doing that most of the time moving forward, I was thinking when the iPhone 12 came out in, I don't know, 2020 or 19 or whenever it came out, it was state-of-the-art camera. It was so good for an iPhone. And while we have the iPhone 15 now with lock and all that shebang, I was thinking, let's see how good we can make a shot from the 12, since I now have a camera, and I'm gonna use it for a lot of B-roll as we're going around and just capturing everyday stuff for my stories on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So I was going to make a little bit more of a comprehensive short video, but as I've been running out of time coming up until New Year now, I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna keep it super simple. So what we're gonna do is, in here in this bedroom, I'm just gonna set up a super simple scene using a phone to sit and scroll. That's gonna be my old phone. And I'm gonna set up the 12 here instead of my camera. And I'm gonna shoot a scene. It's gonna be 20, 30 seconds, and it's gonna be very simple. The idea is that I'm just gonna sit scroll, and then I'm gonna use a screen recording from the phone to pop up on the side and kind of emulate what I'm scrolling through, at the same time as we're having a voiceover come over, talking about how you don't necessarily need new stuff all the time, every time something new comes out. So that's the main idea, that's the main message that I want to get across, and then I want to see how good of a shot we can get just using the iPhone 12. Of course, I'm going to have lighting. I have my softbox with the Shuin Molus X100 sitting up here. So I'm going to use that to try and light the scene, and then we're just going to see what we can get. So using this trusty iPhone 12, let's see how good an image we can actually get. I'm going to take you through the simple process of recording the voiceover and doing the simple edit. That's not really going to be an edit, but putting in the voiceover, putting on the grade, see how much we can push the footage, even though it's not shot in log or anything, simply to try and show you how much you can do with what you already have. And you don't always need the newest gear, even though the newest features always sound nice. So let's get moving around. Let's set up to get the iPhone shot and see how good it can get. I haven't tried or tested out before I recorded this first bit, so I don't actually know if we can get something that looks nice, but let's try. So let's switch it around. All right, so here is what we're trying to work with. I have my light set up over here and a practical light there, and then it's just the bed. I'm gonna put this headset on, and we have the phone, my old phone, lying over there. And then I'm just using the iPhone 12 here with the Blackmagic app, and I'm trying to use the false color, but since I can't see the screen while I'm doing this myself, it makes it a little bit difficult, but nothing is clipping truly. And from the test shot that I just did, it looked fine. So we're shooting at 30 frames, but at 150 because of the lights here, and main camera white balance sets to 5200 Kelvin, as the light up here is set to 5800 Kelvin, so to color match everything. And now we're just going to do a take where I'm trying to attempt or simulate that I'm scrolling on my phone, and we're going to have a look at how it turns out. Alright, so you just saw that little snippet of what we shot, just the raw clip before we do any grading or anything. And before we head into DaVinci Resolve, I'm just going to record the voiceover that I have just quickly scripted as well. So I'm just going to read it out loud from my phone, trying to sound as little as a robot as possible. And I haven't really practiced it, so hopefully it's going to go well. But let's just try and record it and see what happens. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. These past years, I've truly learned that I don't need the newest things all the time, mostly because I can't afford it. It's so tempting to buy something new and think that it'll make everything better, easier, and faster. But say it's 2022 and the iPhone 12 just came out. It was one of the best smartphone cameras and people made incredible videos and photos just using that. And that hasn't really changed, and while new is often better, it's not always necessary. This video, by the way, was all shot on the iPhone. This video, by the way, was shot just on the iPhone 12, by the way, just for reference. All right, so I think that was a decent take. It's just to try it out and kind of show you my process behind everything. So now we have a shot that looks at least good for what I saw on the phone. We have a voiceover that we can use. I need to find a song, which is the last bit. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna show you the next steps in DaVinci Resolve, just putting everything together in the edit, and then we're gonna color grade it and see the final result at the end. Stick around for that. I'll see you in DaVinci in a second. All right, we're inside DaVinci Resolve, and the only thing I've done is import all the files. So we have the shot that we did on the iPhone here. We have the screen recording from my iPhone, going through some different reels that I scrolled through. We have a song here, and we have a voiceover that I did. So those are the key ingredients. Now, first of all, the voiceover I'm gonna drag down. I've just dragged in 20 seconds of the clip that we're gonna use. And now I'm gonna drag in the voiceover here. And I'm just gonna fold this down a little bit. I'm gonna make sure that the track up here is locked and not being used. And then first of all, what I'm gonna do here is just tweak the audio to be the best that it can be. So how I do that is I head into Fairlight here. And first of all, I need to make sure that my clip is in stereo. So I'm gonna choose the same channel here and click OK. And then I'm heading into Fairlight. First up, I am normalizing the audio levels to -3 dBFS, sample peak program. I know nothing about audio, but these are tutorials that I've seen on YouTube before, so I'm just following and it works. So that's always what I do to normalize the audio first. And then I have a preset up here in the menu that's called Fairlight. You can see that, but my preset library, my global track preset, and then I click Audio 1, apply, and that's going to apply that audio track. And what it does is it uses the voice isolation. It puts on a multiband compressor. It adds in some dynamics here. You can pause and see my settings if you want. And it adds some equalizer here, what I've done as well. I've tried to tweak this to be working the best possible with my voice, but instead of having to figure out how to do it every time, I've just saved it as a preset. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna chop up the audio. I'm gonna see how long it takes. It's a quite long take. So I'm gonna chop it up and see how long it is and how it works. So let me just do that fairly quickly. All right, so it is 36 seconds long, so hopefully we have enough footage. I tried to record for a long time. Let's see how that works if we're doing this. I think I'm gonna look down again, but I think that's okay. We just want a simple frame. So now we have it looking like this with the voiceover. I'm not gonna play it all the way through, but just so you get an idea. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. These past years, I've truly learned that I don't need the newest things all the time, mostly because I can't afford it. It's so tempting to buy something new and think that it'll make everything better, easier, and faster. But say it's 2022 and the iPhone 12 just came. Okay, so that looks pretty good. What I'm wondering if we played through in a loop. Reference. It's the end of the year. I'm almost in the same spot, so I actually like that because it's going to be used on Instagram as well. So we're going to see how that ends up working. So now that we have this, the next thing I want to do is I want to add the letterbox effect. So I'm going to twist this around later on, but for this video in itself, I am just going to use an adjustment clip here. What I mean by twist it around is that I'm going to rotate it before I export it to Instagram. But for this tutorial, we're just going to use it like this. I do have a letterbox effect somewhere in here from mJourney, so I'm just going to use that to make it easy. We're going to have the in and out point set. I'm just going to use it like this. And then I'm going to take the clip and just scroll that a little bit up. So we have me more in the center of the frame here, something like this, 160, and now we have it looking just like this, which I think is pretty nice. Then we're gonna add in the music that I found, and I've just searched on Artlist for something sad, like a sad song, and something sad cinematic came up. So we're just gonna use that and see how that sounds. I'm gonna already adjust the audio down to like -15 and just see how that works. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. Okay, first of all, we're gonna use it from the beginning of the first tone here. So I'm just gonna drag that in and try again. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. All right, I think that's pretty good. The audio levels sounds like they are pretty decent. So we're just gonna cut that here, make sure everything looks good, using W as a shortcut for cutting that. And then the last thing that we need now is the screen that I recorded on my phone. So I'm just gonna drag that layer in, and I don't want the, maybe I do want the audio. So we're actually just gonna keep that in as well. And first of all, I know that we're just gonna crop it a little bit in the top and the bottom. Maybe it actually is fine that it's just like this. So we're just gonna zoom it out a little bit to like around 5.6. And I'm just gonna add it to this side here, right next to where I'm sitting. Something like this. Could be pretty good, I think. And then I think the opacity mode we're gonna set to screen or overlay, one of those. I think screen might be able to work. Let's just see how that works. And the audio for this is going to definitely be turned down, so start with -20. I think this looks pretty good. I'm not sure that this screen effect is what I want, so we're just gonna see if one of the other ones here look better. Darken does not really do anything. Hard mix, hard light. Think we're gonna use overlay or screen. Overlay looks like it's a better choice. So we're gonna use overlay, and I might need to pinch it a little bit or use the jaw just to kind of get a little bit of a more 3D feel here. And then we're not gonna pinch it, just have it a little bit to the side here. I think the jaw, maybe use 0.04 instead. Now we just have it rotated a little bit. I think that looks a little bit cooler. And maybe we're just gonna put the opacity to 85 just to make it even a little bit less obvious. And then what I wanna do is I want it to, since I'm looking down at the phone again, I'm gonna scroll to where I look down, and then it's gonna come in from there. So from here, and we wanna cut the first bit here. And then at the end of the clip, I'm gonna cut it here as well. And I'm actually just gonna move it in. And when I look up or away from the phone, it's gonna glitch out. So here we're gonna move it away, move it in here. And what it's gonna do now is that I'm gonna make an effect that makes it, we already messed it up. So I'm just gonna drag this out again. And here we're actually getting what I wanted. So this is the clip that I want. And here I'm looking down. So this is where it comes in. Gonna cut this, move it over here, and when I look up, like here, we're just gonna cut it and delete this part. So what this will do now is that when we move in, we're gonna see it look like I'm looking at the phone, scrolling. This is what we see. This is the screen recording that I did. We're just gonna scroll through, see a bunch of gear that kind of fits the vibe of the voiceover. And then we're gonna see that in the beginning here as well. We're just gonna move through these screen recordings. I might end up cropping out the top and the bottom here, but I don't need to necessarily show that. What I wanna do with the part here is that I wanna kind of make it flicker. So when I start moving my head up, I want to make a keyframe. So keyframe it like it is 100 or 85. Move forward a keyframe, make it 0. Move forward a keyframe, make it 85. Move forward a keyframe, make it 0, move forward 85, and move forward and make it 0. And that'll just kind of make it glitch out. So like this, so it goes away when I'm looking up. And then as I'm looking down, we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna move forward 5 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm gonna put a keyframe here at 85, go 1 back, set it to 0, go 1 back, set it to 85, go 1 back, 0, back, 85, back, 0, back. Now we don't have any more. So now it's gonna glitch in again like this, which I think looks pretty good. That's kind of selling the idea, and it's kind of showing the wall behind it as well. So I think that looks pretty good. So overall, we kind of have what we need now in terms of the audio. Just gonna put the audio on for a second and see what it sounds like. It's the end of the year, which always has me okay, this is definitely too loud. So we're gonna turn down the volume of these clips as well to at least 30. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. And I think we're actually just going to cut off the music from these because it doesn't really sound good. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. Okay, I think this is pretty good. So I like how everything is looking now. Now we want to look at the grade and see what we can do. So we're going to head into the color page here, and we're going to make sure that we have the clip selected, of course. And now we're just going to play around and see what we can do. The first thing I want to do, I want to make this a lot more moody than it is now. So we're definitely going to change a few things. But first I want to make it into DaVinci Wide Gamut so we have a little bit more room to work with. So since this is not shot in log because it's an iPhone 12, we're going to move it from Rec 709, Rec 709 into DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. And here we're going to move it from DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate into Rec 79 and Gamma 2.4. It didn't do anything when we're looking at it now, and that's just because we've moved it from Rec 79 and Rec 79. Input gamma, this is only gamma 2.4 when you're outputting for a display. So this would be the input gamma, maybe even Rec 79A, but I'm always using this, so this is the reason why. And then we are going to output it into Rec 79 and gamma 2.4. So having these Rec to DWG and DWG to Rec. And what we want to do here is I'm going to add a few notes. So this will be our contrast, our exposure, and our balance. I'm not sure we're going to need all of these, but we're just going to have a look at it. So first of all, I'm going to add some contrast. So let's just throw up the waveform here, and let's just try and make it a tiny bit smaller so we can still work here, and then use the tone curve. Now, we do have some things that are almost clipping. That makes sense. That's the light bulb here. These skin tones are lying a little bit further down than I would like them to. I would like them to be around 70, but we're just going to try and compress everything a little bit. I want to make it look a little bit more flat. I don't want those harsh shadows. So I want everything in the dark areas to lie around 5. And then I want everything to be compressed down quite a bit. This will make it look a lot more flat, but then we're going to add in some contrast by then adding in some shadows here and adjusting the highlights up here as well. And that'll give it a lot more contrast very quickly. So we're going to be careful we're not destroying the clip here. Just adding a little bit to make it kind of look a little bit more cinematic. I think because it's Rec 79 and I'm used to working with this as much, I'm going to go a little bit softer on the blacks here. And I think this looks pretty good. That makes it look just a little bit more cinematic in my opinion. Then we're going to adjust the exposure. Here I want to see if by adjusting the gamma up, we can push the skin tones to lie closer to 70 to begin with without it breaking. And I think we can get somewhat close, but I do actually like how it looks without that. And I want it to be a lot darker of a shot. So I'm going to pull the offset down. And I'm going to pull the gain down even further, which is kind of the same as what we did before. I'm going to put the shadows down and the highlights as well, because we want it to be kind of more of a night scene. So this is a lot darker. And while I didn't push the skin tones up, I'm going to add a little bit of gamma back now, just to kind of balance a little bit of what we've done. The skin tones are not going to lie at 70 where I normally want them, but it is going to be a darker, moodier shot. So I think it's okay for now. We still have things lying around 2, 3, 4, 5 down here, which is pretty good. That's what I want. And the colors are looking pretty good as well. Was shot in Rec 79, of course, so that helps a little bit. And then for the balance, let's just see if we need to adjust anything. Let's see where the skin tones are lying. They are lying slightly towards the magenta side. So let's just try and push some green in here and remove a little bit of blue and then remove a little bit of red. Try and push it down a little bit here, see where the skin tones are lying now. We definitely pushed too much green in there. Let's just see where they're lying now. Now they're lying closer. Let's just see how this looks compared to before. This also gives it more of a nighttime scene, I think, just makes it a little bit more green and bluish, which I kind of like. So even though this is the color correction, with these few notes, we went from this to this, which just compresses this a little bit and makes it look a little bit more cinematic, at least in my opinion. So now we're gonna do some primaries here and some curves before we do a little bit of masking, just to do the final bits. So I definitely want to get that more teal and orange look. So let's just pull this up here. And we are gonna add or introduce quite a lot of teal into the image here. So what I'm looking at is the scopes up here. I'm trying to pull it down towards kind of the cyan, between the blue and the cyan here, pulling all of the shadows down towards that. And then the gamma I'm gonna pull up. So I'm gonna go kind of counterbalance of what we just did and remove some blue here, move everything up with the greens a little bit and the reds. Just trying to counter things just a little bit here. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more red, a little bit more green here, getting that orange feel. We have a very strong teal and orange tone now, but I kind of like how things are moving. I think we want to add a little bit more in the lift here, just pushing it a little bit further, and also just trying to then counter it a little bit in here by moving things around. I think we're getting in a pretty good spot here. The skin tones are still lying where I want them to. Everything else is being pushed down here. So I think that's pretty good. Now what I want to do is head into my curves, now that we've gotten the base look overall. And then I want to just adjust the hue versus hue at first. So we're just going to slap on the skin tones here, which are lying around there. That's fine. So see what we can do. If we can push them just a little bit closer to each other, making them a little bit more cohesive in the colors here, just pushing everything in to look a bit more orange and look a little bit more skin tone-ish. I think that looks good. It doesn't look like the footage is falling apart at all, which I kind of expected it to do a little bit, so I'm happy about that. I'm gonna push all the greens more towards the tealish here, and that's not really going too well, so let's just see how much we're gonna do. Push these greens towards this teal color here, and now we're getting something that looks a bit too magenta. So we're gonna try and just go a little bit more subtle on these. Just kind of wanna get to that point of things looking a bit more teal without it being too much. I'm trying to kind of get opposite of the skin tone line to get a nice contrast to the skin tones, making everything look a little bit better. Things are falling apart a little bit up here, so I think we need to be a little bit more subtle. And just removing this note here makes this curve a lot softer, which helps it a lot. So now there's not that banding going on here because things are moving a little bit softer. And I think overall we're getting something that looks pretty good. I am not sure if the skin tones here are looking good or not. We might want to push them just a slight tad more. So this I definitely want to be more orange. And now the skin tones are looking weird. So just want to push them down ever so slightly here. Trying to balance everything without it being too weird. And now the colors are looking a little bit off. So I think this is the main compartment to this. See, because we want it to lie on the skin tone line, which it sort of is now, but it's also lying a little bit towards the magenta side. Just trying to push things around here. And I'm not sure I like exactly where this is going. It's just trying to soften these things out a little bit, moving back and forth, and I'm feeling we're getting something that looks too magenta. So I am gonna head into the balance here, just add a little bit more green to push that towards the more orange tones here. It's making it look a little bit better overall. Moving a bit of blue, trying to not destroy the skin tone too much, but it is looking a bit weird, so we are going in the wrong direction somewhere here. And overall, I think it's starting to be all right. Let's just see what we can do when we're moving these things around here. Just trying to see. We want that shirt to be orange, and I think the last few bits we can do with the masking. So I'm pretty okay with how we're getting here. It's not exactly what I wanted, but we are getting that orange in the shirt, and the skin tones are looking okay. They're looking moody and a little bit dark, but that's okay. That's also kind of what we wanted. And without making this tutorial too long, then we're just going to add a few masks. So I'm going to add 3 here to begin with, and then this one is going to be our inside node. This is going to be our highlights, and this will be our shadows. I'm going to add an extra to each of these, and this one I'm going to add an outside node, outside. And let's just see if we give it a little bit more real estate. Maybe it can clean it up nicely. It could. This will be warmth, and this will be teal. So what we're going to do here is we are taking the inside node here, and we're just going to mask out me sitting over here, kind of trying to make everything very soft and nice, giving us this here. And then I'm going to add a little bit more contrast, just a tiny bit, something like this, without it being too strong. I think that looks a little bit better. That also enhances the skin tones a little bit. And I am going to try and see if we can just push those skin tones to be a little bit more of what I want them to be. So just gonna try and see by adding a slight bit of green here. See if we can get them looking a little bit better. I think that helped just a little bit. You can't even see that I've moved it, but I've added just a tiny bit of green to kind of get the skin tone looking even better. Then for the outside node, this is where I want to create quite a lot more contrast in the whole scene. So I want to make it a lot darker here, but without necessarily losing out on the brightest tones. So we're just going to see if we can brighten up some of these and then just lower the exposure a little bit on the darker side here. Just getting that moody vibe overall. So I think those two gets us a little bit closer to that moody vibe. Then the highlights here, I am going to select those with the qualifier. So I'm going to turn off hue and saturation, turn up the qualifier here, and just get the brightest areas, soften it out, and get a little bit closer towards the softest side here, something like this. And I am going to bring it down because I don't want it to be too strong. Kind of want that a little bit more faded look. Gonna push it up ever so slightly here, but I do want it to be flattened quite a lot. Something like this. Don't want it to stand out too much with the background here. And it kind of was also because of the key light I was using up here. So this just softens everything. Also my skin here makes it look a little bit more coherent everywhere. And then we're gonna see if we're gonna bring up or down anything here. Maybe just turn up the black a slight bit. Still have a little bit of contrast here. And then we're gonna warm it up just a little bit. So we're really doing a lot of warming things up, adding a little bit of red, removing a little bit of blue, making it look just a little bit better, a little bit more separation in the colors. For the shadows, we're gonna go opposite. We're gonna take the qualifier here, turn down so we're losing all the brightest points. Shift H, let us see what we're doing. Turning up the softness, and we're just gonna turn it down so we are somewhat of a nice spot here. Don't want the skin, but everything else is okay. Heading into the curves here, I kind of want to just make everything look a little bit more filmic. So we're also going to compress that a little bit, and then just adding a little bit more shadows here. We're adding them faded because I'm turning this one up, so I'm just going to do that ever so slightly here. Just want it to be a tiny bit just for that added contrast. And then in the teal here, what I forgot to do over here was make sure that the warmth was only connected to the warm parts. So now they're only affecting the warmer parts. I forgot to connect the alpha input and output. So I'm doing that here now as well. And now we're only selecting the darker points. And then we're gonna add just a little bit of teal into this as well. Command Shift W to pull this up. And then we're just gonna add a little blue, a little bit of green, and add a little, remove a little bit of red. And I am going to adjust this a little bit again, just make it a little bit darker, something like this. And now we've actually gotten a pretty good look. I think it looks very moody. It has a very nice color separation. And let's just see what we did with all our masking. We went from this to this. I do think it looked a lot better. So I'm pretty happy with where we've gotten this. Now we might want to take Dehancer for a last thing here and just add a little bit of grain. So I'm gonna add Dehancer that I have somewhere here. Dehancer Pro 7, and then I just want to turn everything off. I don't want it to do a whole bunch of stuff. Now it's doing nothing. And then I'm just gonna add a slight bit of grain here. I am going to custom because I don't want it to be too much. and it's easily too strong. So I want the size to be very small. I want the amount to be very small, and I don't want it to affect a lot of the areas here either. So this just adds a tiny bit, then we can bring it back a little bit again. This just adds a tiny bit of grain, a tiny bit of texture to the overall image. And let's see what we've got here now. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. These past years, I've truly learned that I don't need the newest things all the time, mostly because I can't afford it. It's so tempting to buy something new and think that it'll make everything better, easier, and faster. But say it's 2022 and the iPhone 12 just came out. It was one of the best smartphone cameras and people made incredible videos and photos just using that. And that hasn't really changed, and while new is often better, it's not always necessary. This video, by the way, was shot just in the iPhone 12, by the way, just for reference. Okay, I'm super satisfied with how this looks. So one last thing that I want to add is kind of a title. So just going to go into text plus here, and we're going to add this. And when I say this is shot on the iPhone 12, this video, by the way, we're going to add that in the front here, something like this. Going to use Helvetica New and light, I think, and then just going to do shot on iPhone 12, and we're going to make it 7, 6 maybe even, add a little bit of shading in here, something like this. And we might even want to do 2 more things just to make it look a little bit nicer. One thing is I'm going to put the text up here, and then we are going to actually add another adjustment layer. So we're going to go into effects here, adjustment layer. Just going to add that on top of everything all the way here. And what I want to do with this one is I want to just add a slight zoom in to everything. So this is going to be, actually we're not going to use it on this one. So we want the letterhead or the letterbox on top of that. And then this one, it's going to go from zoom 1. And then we're going to see how much we want it zoomed in, probably around here. And that's just going to give us a little bit of zoom throughout the entire scene here. Just have everything moving in a little bit, but it's going to zoom on everything. It's also going to zoom on the screen. It's going to zoom on the text at the end. Everything is going to zoom together, which I think is pretty nice. Okay, so we have the text coming in, and the only other thing I want to do is just another adjustment layer here, which is just going to add some blur to the background. So I'm just going to do a effect here, and we're going to do blur, and I think that's an open effects that we have a Gaussian blur. We're just going to add that to this one, and we're not going to make it very strong. We're just going to make it 0.2 or something. Maybe 0.4 was actually pretty good, something like this. And then in the beginning here, we want to keyframe it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames. Go back, make it 0. This one, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames back. Keyframe at 100%, go back to the last frame, go to 0. And then I'm just going to ease it in and out here, and ease it out. This one I actually just wanted to ease it in. This one is going to ease out, and this one ease in. This one going to ease out, and this one is going to ease in. That will just give us a little bit of nicer movement. I'm copying from this node, and then I'm going to right click and say paste, opacity. That's going to do the same for this one. And now we're going to have a nice shot on iPhone 12 coming in, and then it's going to go out again, and then we start over. One last thing that we could do is that we can go into timeline. We can create subtitles from audio. We could say English, and 42 is pretty good. Then we're just going to let it adjust or add the subtitles here. It's going to take a second. Now they're added, and I want to make it Helvetica New. I'm going to make it light. I'm going to make it around 35, 30 even. And then I'm going to, I think actually regular is better. That's up here. I'm going to make it FFF00 for that yellow color. Remove the stroke, add a little bit of background. No, we're not going to need the background because we are going to throw it at the bottom here at around 110. And thin might look better in this case. Light looks better. So now we just have a little bit of subtitles as well. So this is what we ended up with. I'm going to show the full thing now, and then we're going to end this long video. It's the end of the year, which always has me reflecting a lot. These past years, I've truly learned that I don't need the newest things all the time, mostly because I can't afford it. It's so tempting to buy something new and think that it'll make everything better, easier, and faster. But say it's 2022 and the iPhone 12 just came out. It was one of the best smartphone cameras and people made incredible videos and photos just using that. And that hasn't really changed, and while new is often better, it's not always necessary. This video, by the way, was shot just in the iPhone 12, by the way, just for reference. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I truly hope you enjoyed this video. All I wanted to do was to showcase that as long as you understand how to expose your camera and do a bit of grading, you can actually get pretty great results no matter what camera you have. The most important parts are always getting the lighting and the exposure right, and then knowing how to color grade and working with what you got. Then you can shoot with pretty much anything. So that's the last video that I have for this year for you. Happy New Year, and I'm super excited to show you what I got in store for 2024. I'll see you there.